Hello, family. My name is Oreonia Brown, and I am the lead team leader of HVCLA. And we are celebrating Black History Month. And by doing that, today we are honoring Poly Tuesday. And that is just to continue to move the conversation forward. As you know, that last year we started the social justice team and we informed our community about voting, about registration, about the laws, we did the ballot breakdown. We are doing the work. And so we want to continue to inform you and also invite you into the conversation as well. What you will be seeing today is a conversation that I had the privilege of engaging in with one of our youth. His name is Dante Reese. And so I just listen and I ask questions that just give us a perspective of how our youth is feeling and what they think, and also their hopes and dreams for their future. And so without further ado, check out this video. Thank you. Hey, Heavenly Vision family. I'm Oreonia Brown, and today we have our first installment of Political Tuesday. And today I have the pleasure of talking with a young man by the name of Dante Reese. I'm going to let him introduce himself, tell us a little bit about himself, his age, what school he goes to, and then we'll get started. Dante.
Hello, everybody. My name is Dante Reese. I'm 16 years old. I attend Venice High School. A little bit about myself. I'm a huge sports fan. My favorite, I'm a huge basketball fan. My favorite NBA team is the Los Angeles Lakers, as you can see. But my two favorite players of all time are Kobe Bryant and Allen Iverson. I'm the youngest of two brothers, three matter of fact, three brothers. Um, and I'm just rolling on. I have started my own nonprofit called Real Talk, hosted by Dante Reese. It's an organization where I bring teenagers to talk
Wait.
about.
Before you get into
Okay,
that, we want to save that good stuff for the end. So,
okay.
yeah. Thank you so much for telling us about yourself. You said that you are in 11th grade and you go to Venice High School and you are 16 years old. And so this conversation, as many of you know, if you've been following us since last year, Heavenly Vision has now a social justice development ministry. And as you see in the name, it's development. So we have been developing a social justice ministry at our church. And this way is to get information to the congregation, as well as be more informed of what's going on in our community, and also how we can move the arc of justice in the right direction. And so I have the privilege of being the team leader of that, as well as the other members who are on the team. So Dante, I want to know, you was telling us about your nonprofit that you're starting, but before we get to that, how did you get involved with, because I met Dante through Game Changers, which is an organization that facilitates conversation with the community as well as police. And as you know, that last year, 2020, with the death of George Floyd, it sparked a huge outrage and movement or awakening of activism in the streets. And so I want to know, how did you become involved with Game Changers, and what sparked you to start your own organization?
Okay, so I became involved with Game Changers through Brotherhood Crusade. Brotherhood Crusade is an organization that gets youth members internships with various different organizations, companies, etc. Um, and they have these events, or they sign you up for events like Game Changers. But with Game Changers, it was a Lakers event as well. So that's what really had me excited to go to it, was because it was also sponsored by the Lakers, and I got to meet the one and only James Worthy. Um, so yeah, that's how I got into Game Changers. Um, and Game Changers really kind of set my mind, you know, after seeing what happened with George Floyd, after seeing what happened with Breonna Taylor. Um, having that conversation with law enforcement, it really changed my perspective on a lot of different things, how to react. I've always seen things on the media, but media doesn't always show the full story. And so therefore it causes many different, uh, for uh, lack of terms, a outrage that may not be in the right area. Um, so game changers, going through that, it showed me the different perspective. It changed my perspective on law enforcement, and because it had such a great impact on me, I want to share that with other youth members, um, of my community. And yeah, so they can understand and see the same things that I saw.
That is awesome. Yes. And Game Changers is an awesome organization, and they have meetings throughout the month. I think probably like twice a month. And that's where like I said, that's where I met Dante. And I was just, I guess in awe of seeing a youth. He was actually like one of the only youth there that day. But throughout the time, it is more youth that comes on. And I think it's good for the youth to be involved, and not only in the school setting talking about how they feel, but also lending their voice into creating change. And so one thing that sparked out to me that you said was that you wanted to take the information that you gained and share it with your peers. And that's something that was on my heart as well, because when social justice was started, it was not only to educate and to participate in the protests, but it was also about the election. And at that time, I really didn't know much. I knew a little, but it wasn't in depth of what I wanted to know. And then I began to think, if I don't know this, then there's so many people who like me don't know this too, right? And so I think that's one thing that's important, is us sharing the information that we have and sharing it with those who are closest to us. And so that brings us to my next question about community care. So I wanted to talk about community engagement, but as I was looking up community engagement, I ran across this new term called community care. So many of us heard about self-care, making sure you're good in your health, your body, your mind, right? But how often do we neglect our community care? And so I want to know, what are ways that you engage with your community as a youth? Many of us, or have you ever heard like, I'm too young, I can't get involved in that? What made you step out of that mentality of I'm too young and go do something for your community?
Um, it was more for me. It was more of, I didn't know what there was to do. And so, Game Changers, after I saw it, it like gave me an idea, like, oh, I could do this. So, I being engaged in my community, this is, I would say, besides when I was in 8th grade and we had to do this PBL and bring in, law enforcement. PBL stands for project based learning, but bringing law enforcement to our school to talk to the entire, school. Besides that, I haven't really been active in my community, because I didn't know what ways I could be active. And so with Game Changers, it showed me ways that I could be active in impactful ways. So yeah.
That's good. That's good. And it's good that you were able to see something and say, hey, I can do that too. It's not, and that's something that, as you know, if you don't know, we have a relationship with the Black Church Pack. And the Black Church Pack is an organization that facilitates and hosts meetings. Sorry for scratching my face with picture. Meetings for churches, no matter what denomination, no matter what background, and you come not as a representative of the church, but just as a member of society to get information, and you can take that information back to your church, back to your community. Well, upon me sitting in on these meetings and listening in, I was able to see that, hey, I could do this too. And that's what really gave me encouragement. Like you said, like you see it, and now it's like, okay, let me take this format, or let me take this information, or let me take this skill set or knowledge that they have given me and share it with those who may not ever come to these type of meetings, or may not ever run across this page. And I think that's really good. And that is a form of community care, when we are not only worried about how stuff affects us, but how stuff may affect people in our neighborhood or people at our school. I heard you mention a project-based learning project that you did as you brought in police officers to your school. Those are things that, as at your age, that you can do today, and that you can inspire your peers, to do as well. And so I want to talk to you about the election. How did you feel during this election, and what is your hope for the future? Because I know in 2024, which will be our next election, you'll be able to vote. So what is your hope for the future into coming of age?
So how did I feel during this election? Starting there, I felt really good. I felt like we're at a new beginning, um, and I feel like this time we can actually progress and get things done. Something I'm looking forward to is um, the education system, tuition for college. Something for the new administration to do anything about lowering the cost of tuition for um, college, because that is very high, and not many people can pay that amount, and but many people do want to get that college experience and that college degree. um, Other things I look forward to are something that helps poverty. I see I live in a pretty good neighborhood because I live in Ladera Heights, but when I go driving with my dad, I go to other neighborhoods, and I just it's sad seeing how some people have to live, and sad seeing how people live paycheck to paycheck. um so some if the new administration could do anything about poverty and just helping out other communities that really need it. Um and then you know, also most importantly, or not most importantly, but also how we're talking about youth and law enforcement, or just community relations between law enforcement and community members. Any law or policy to stop certain things like a George Floyd and a Breonna Taylor and many, many others from happening in the future. Those are the things I'm looking forward to in this administration.
That is awesome. That I'm ready for you to get out there. And I know you're already doing it. You talk about the word policy. Um, can you mention of what you were assigned to do, or you have the privilege of, doing the National Police Department policy? I think you told me something about that.
So yes, with my first Game Changers event, uh, at the end of the Game Changers, Mr. Sean Shepard gives out this post email with everybody's emails, and so I went around contacting all the different law enforcement officers from that one, and a couple of them got back to me, and one of them, his name is Officer Roca. He he talked to me about a national police department policy, how that's never been done before, and that's something that could be done, to prevent certain things like a George Floyd and a Breonna Taylor. And so, to coming up with how to make that policy, having youth members and especially teenagers, just sit down and talk about, okay, what are the things that we see, going into websites, looking at statistics, and looking at information that's provided to us, and based off this information, based off statistics, what can we do about it? And then having useful police officers on a call to review our suggestions and to kind of help and to help guide us in a way so we can make this National Police Department policy effective.
Awesome, awesome. So are you thinking about, or have you thought about becoming a congressman or being involved in legislation? Like, have you thought about running for, community councilman, like things like that? Is that on your list of to-do list, or what is your hopes and dream for your future?
Matter of fact, so I just recently I've met this guy named Justin Blakely. He ran for councilman of Compton, I believe, and he didn't win, but he was a candidate. So I got in contact with him because at Brother Crusade, everybody likes to call me Mr. Mayor Reese because they believe that I could be the youngest mayor of LA. So putting me in contact with Justin Blakely, we talked, and based off what I told him, based off my inspirations, he told me that he would help me run for city council when I turn 18. And because that is next year, we're starting that now. And so in 20, I believe it's 2024, 25, I would then, because it's only a 4-year term for a city council member, I would then run for mayor. And so, Justin Blakely is a huge helper, but also this organization called Brother Son Self Coalition.
Say that again.
I don't know, Brother Son Self Coalition. I don't know his title, but David Turner, he told me that if I really wanted to be a city council member, if I really wanted to be a mayor, with his help, he will definitely put me in that position. So those are some things that are on my, to-do list. But yes, I would want to be put in a position where I could be the most impactful in, especially with the education system. So if that's, city council, fine, mayor, fine, congressman, even better. Whatever position best helps me, impact the education system and community relations, with law enforcement, that's kind of where I want to be.
I am inspired. He said he wants to change the education system. Y'all know I have a passion for children, passion for the education system. And so I'm rooting for you, Dante. And I am rooting for those who are connected to you, because that light that shines on you, it has to be contagious. And I know that there are youth who are inspired by you. And so that leads me to my next question. How do you I guess, encourage or invite others your age to be a part of, I guess, social justice or the political talk? Because I know at a young age, at 16, I wasn't thinking about no city council. I wasn't thinking about no police officer. I was thinking about being away from them, not going to them. And so, how does that affect your friendships or even your relationships with your peers?
Greatly, with going back, talking about that 8th grade project, after the next day going back to school, for the most part I was praised on it, but there were those few haters. But as of now, my peers, they look up to me because they know me. They know me as a person. They they know that I'm a funny guy, or that that I'm a funny guy, and I'm always helpful. But a lot of people come up to me for advice. I've had many peers come up to me for advice, whether that's personal wise or whether that's school wise. They've always came to me for advice because they know that I keep it real with them, and that's one thing that not everybody does. So they know I keep it real with them, and they know they can have a good laugh while I'm keeping it real with them. So that's kind of why they've always looked up to me, and they know that if I'm rooting for something, that it is a good cause, because I'm not going to root for nothing that's not a good cause, and they know that personally. So that's why they kind of look up to me.
Awesome. That's good that you can have that inspiration for others and for them to be able to say, hey, I have somebody my age that I can turn to. And even I'm sure you're available for different questions they may have and such like that. And so that's pretty good. And so I asked you this in our unofficial meeting. So I want to ask you again, and you can take it how you want. So we're going to talk about, because you have mentioned the Breonna Taylor, the George Floyd situation, and the Ahmaud Arbery. And so I want to know, and just for you to tell our viewers, what was your perspective before 2020, before those incidents, and how have after 2020, so when that happened, what was your perspective, what were your feelings in that, and then now and recently, as your participation in community relations, your participation with Game Changers, so how in that chronological time, how has your view on police officers have changed, or how was it impacted or even altered?
Yeah, before 2020, my and actually I will go as far as saying before 2018, um, because that's when I had my eighth grade project. But before 2020, my views on law enforcement were, let me not be next to them, let me not be in their presence. I would much rather be somewhere else than being anywhere where they are in close proximity to me, because I don't know what can happen. The last thing I want to be is a statistic. My father is older in age, and he's told me his experiences, from law enforcement. I mean, one was going to his girlfriend's house. He was pulled over 4 times just in one trip. Um, and it's all for a quote unquote routine checkup, or routine stop. Um, and so hearing his stories, seeing the things that I've seen on the news, I never had a good taste for law enforcement. And then going into 2020, and I was also younger, so I really couldn't comprehend as much. But what I was able to comprehend is police, no. Going into 2020, I'm much older. I'm able to understand things, and one thing, I've always done is question why. Why does this always happen to, Black people? Why? That's something I did since I was a little boy. I've always questioned, why does this happen to Black people? And is it going to happen to me? So 2020, same question. Seeing Breonna Taylor, seeing George Floyd, is this going to happen to me? And why does this happen to Black people? Why does it consistently happen to Black people? I remember when they were coming out with the verdict for Breonna Taylor's case. I was sitting in this chair in school, and I think one thing that that to me should have been very important was that school should have taken during that time that they were delivering the verdict, school should have taken a pause and should have focused on the news. But no, they wanted to continue with school. Same with the election. They didn't want to stop to recognize what's happening. As history is happening, they don't want to stop to recognize, they just want to continue with school. But I'm sitting here watching the verdict, and I'm in just tears of hearing what's being said, because it's horrible, to see what happened and there's no justice behind it. It literally brought me to tears. And so that question just pondered in my head. Why does this happen to Black people? And is it going to happen to me? Um, so then, you know, this opportunity of game changers comes to my plate, and I go at it and eat. And going into the event, changed my perspective, changed a lot of different things. And because it changed so much, it was like, I have to share this. And I know many other of my peers, many other family members see what's happening on the news, but we're only seeing it from our side. We're only seeing this one side base, and that's what the media loves to show, is that one side, because they don't like to always show the truth or show the full story. So hearing that from game changers, seeing that from game changers, it really just brought my attention, like, okay, yeah, I could be mad, but let me do something about this as well. And that's what kind of brought me to where I am now.
Yes, I love that. And I think of a Bible verse and it says, "Be angry, but sin not." And that was one of the Bible verses that, because I remember watching the riots, I remember feeling the anger and just mad, like you had that same question, me, why and what can I do? And I want to be angry, but I'm like, I don't want to go out there recklessly. I want to continue to represent Christ. And that's why I believe that with the other members of my church, we decided to create this ministry and build this ministry together, so people like myself, people like you, could come and join and share ideas, share information, and do something about it in our community in a positive way. Like, we want to not look at police officers as monsters, but look at them as humans who do the wrong things, who make mistakes. And we also want to have justice when those mistakes are made, because when we make mistakes, we get punished, right? And so I think that's what a lot of people who can resonate with this message is saying. Yes, they're human. Yes, they make mistakes, but where is the justice? And so I thank you for coming here and sharing your heart. And I believe, and I did this interview with you, because I know that there's so many youth out there who want to be a part of change. They want to create change. And sometimes it's just like, I don't know how, I don't know what to do. And my prayer is, and my hope is that they're encouraged to see someone who may be younger than them, or maybe not that older than them, but to be inspired and say, hey, I can do that too. And so I want you to tell us a little bit about your organization that you created, as well as the event that you have coming up.
Yes, yes. So created a nonprofit called Real Talk, hosted by Dante Reese. Real Talk, hosted by Dante Reese, is a two-part series. There's Real Talk Workshop Edition and Real Talk Podcast Edition. But we're focusing on Real Talk Workshop Edition. Real Talk Workshop Edition is a space for teenagers to have fun playing games, but talking about societal problems that we face today and coming up with solutions for those problems. And those same problems those same solutions that we came up with, we share them with lawmakers for implementation to improve our lives, but to also improve the lives of generations to come. And so, with that being said, our first event is February 20th. On February 20th, it is just teenagers, and our topic of discussion is law enforcement. We're talking about how our thoughts and our feelings on law enforcement. Do we think that relationships with community and law enforcement can get better? And so that's what February 20th is about. And then we have another event that the date is not set just yet, but the event following that would be with law enforcement, teenagers or youth with law enforcement, talking about those same thoughts and feelings. and seeing what solutions that we can come from it. And one of those solutions is, the National Police Department policy. How can we make this and put it into effect?
Awesome. Yes. So parents, if you have any youth, is there an age range?
No age range.
So
No age.
hey, if they know how to play games, they can come. And so we will make sure that we post that information and share that information with you. If you are interested in getting your youth involved, that they have a desire to be more engaged in what's happening in their history, we encourage you to, jump on board. Real Talk with Dante Reese, or is it with Dante Reese or by Dante?
Hosted by Dante Reese.
Real Talk hosted by Dante. Okay, we're gonna get it right. And so before we leave, because this is in honor of Black History, I want to know who has been your inspiration in our history. Who do you look up to, whether it be a family member or even just someone who's prominent in our history? Do you have someone that you look up to that you want to pay homage to on today?
I have a couple of people I look up to. One of those people I would have to say is Mr. Sean Shepard. With him, being the founder of Game Changers, with him, after our first event, I stayed on after to talk with him, and we had such a wonderful talk. And when I told him how impactful Game Changers was and what I wanted to do after Game Changers, he was so excited that, he wanted to help me out along the way. So that's what he's been doing, is helping me out along the way with this startup process. So that, Mr. Sean Shepard is just one of my inspirations with everything. And so, yeah, that's definitely one. Another, most people would just say another one is Allen Iverson and Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant, he's taught us, so many lessons about dedication and hard work, and I applied those lessons that he taught me within the startup process of Real Talk, because it is a lot of hard work and dedication to starting an organization. But as long as you keep at it, you'll make it far. So definitely Kobe Bryant and Allen Iverson. He brought the swag into the game, and being a young guy, I I like to have the little swag. I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, I'm like, if we're looking at me right now, I have this blazer on, but I have a Mickey Mouse shirt on under, because although I like to be about business and I like to get things done, I'm always a kid on the inside. So that's why I have the Mickey Mouse shirt on. But yeah, those will be my main inspirations. I have many more, but that's a long list. I don't even think we have time to go down that long list. So I'll just keep it short with those three for now.
Awesome. It's been a pleasure interviewing you and having this conversation with you. So I thank you for, letting me borrow you and sharing your time with you. And I am rooting for you, like I said, for you to go and make some changes in our school system, go and make some changes in our community, go create some new policies. You have my full support. And I just want to thank you guys for all coming in and listening. And next week, Tuesday, we have another guest who's going to come and share some more conversation. So if you enjoyed this conversation today, I invite you to tune back in next Tuesday for Political Tuesday as we recognize Black history.